At this stage of our evolution, we are not capable of changing mass consciousness. We are an insane society rushing headlong to our own destruction. We are not only content with exterminating each other, but we are now bent on destroying all forms of life on this planet, as well as the critical life support systems. Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Luca Majno. I'm here with Frank Gregory Ford. This is Global News Update on TLBTV, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project, where we give you complete, backstage, up-to-date info as to the developments occurring in our world today. And yes, I wanted to start this show off, Greg, with this writing, an incredible writing by a 95-year-old who came to coffee one morning, and he had this little piece of paper all crumpled up, and he took it out and started looking at it, and then he gave it to me, and I have it on my wall. And I'm gonna share screens with you, and this is what it looks like. And it's hanging on my wall. At this stage of our evolution, we are not capable of changing mass consciousness. I want to remind people that this was written by a now 90-year-old in his 20s. So this was 70 years ago. We are an insane society rushing headlong to our own destruction. We are not only content with exterminating each other, but we are now bent on destroying all forms of life on this planet, as well as the critical life support systems. So welcome to Global News Update for this day. Greg, thanks for being along for the ride.
My pleasure, as always.
I wanted to share screens with you too, again, to finish snapshot real quick, Greg.
Great.
Very interesting article. And I have it right here. For those who are looking in the camera, I have it right here. This is the article. Cold War radiation testing in U.S. widespread, author claims. And in here, she also states, testing of zinc cadmium sulfide in the poorest neighborhoods of St. Louis in the 50s and 60s. Apparently, government's top priority was the offensive radiological weapons program. I thought that was pretty interesting, and they're targeting minorities, and I quote, wards of the state, unquote. Doesn't that sound familiar? Weren't the original people of this land, i.e. Indians, ward of the state?
Wards of the state, boy.
That's exactly what they were in the Indian Act in Canada, but never mind.
And it's never been the same since, has it?
No. People will believe what the media tells them they believe. And this is one of the things that people don't realize. And I wanted to just touch on it because I saw two awesome posts on social media. This is one of them. The other one follows, and I want people to pay attention. Illusion of choice. 1,500 newspapers, 1,100 magazines, 9,000 radio stations, 1,500 TV stations, 2,400 publishers, owned by 6 corporations and 272 executives. And they control 90% of what 277 million Americans see, hear, and read.
And think.
Yes, and inevitably think. And as far as this goes, Greg is going to weigh in on this for a second. Of course, this is looking more and more, sadly, like another false flag, okay? But people will say, well, you've got to be specific on what is a false flag. Well, there's that teacher again. A horrific staged event blamed on a political enemy. Okay, but yeah, sure, there are people killed. The more the better, right? Ask Bush. And used as a pretext to start a war or enact draconian laws, i.e. gun control, in the name of national security, okay? So what do? You look for the signatures of a false flag, immediate national news coverage, or no one allowed to see dead bodies, or federal government attention, mainstream media manipulation tactics. They're all there. And this is something that we're telling people, don't believe us. Again, look for yourselves. Naturally, the common people don't want war, neither in Russia, nor in England, nor in America, nor for that matter in Germany. This is understood, but the people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them that they're being attacked and denounce the pacifists for the lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same way in every country. Guess who said that? And
Herman Goering said that.
And we got the other one really good by Joseph Stalin underneath. The easiest way to gain control of a population is to carry out acts of terror. And this is what they've done. Remember Robert David Steele, every single terrorist attack event in America was a false flag, period. I had to throw this in about 9/11 because I know Greg is going to talk about either 9/11 or the CIA. So I had to say this. Steel-framed buildings existed for 100 years. Only 3 of them in the history of the world have collapsed due to fire. All 3 leased by the same guy, and all collapsed on the same day in history. Imagine that. Okay? Greg, I want you to weigh in on this one too, because this is important to me. When the CIA is instructed to wreck a country, this is what happens. The CIA recruits generals, politicians, police chiefs, and media chiefs from the target country. Then the CIA carries out acts of false flag terrorism. Then the CIA organizes people power demonstrations. You know, doesn't that Soros ring a bell? The CIA bombs the target country, and then the CIA topples the government. That's pretty accurate.
That's absolutely correct. That's how they do it. And of course, I have given our listeners something that the government and the agency, the cocaine importation agency,
right,
really don't want you to hear, and that is the term copper green. All right, folks. Now, and as I always say, and we will always say, this is our motto: don't believe us. Right?
Research.
We don't want our listeners to view us as just another arm of the government. This is what they do. They put out audacious statements, and if they say it long enough and often enough, they expect you to believe it. And here's the sad thing: most people usually do believe exactly what the government wants them to believe. All right. So, copper green. Remember, folks, that is going to be the term that is going to be affecting you the rest of your lives. Most of you will never know what it is, but I am telling you, copper green. All right? 127 countries right now, probably, by the end of this month, it'll be 135 countries actually are controlled by something called copper green. All right? So, yes, and you will hear more about copper green, by the way, on October 6th when I do my broadcast. So I want as many people listening to this because, first of all, it is brought to you, listeners, by Kevin Barrett, of course, Dr. Kevin Barrett, one of the most courageous people in America, and he is interviewing me, of course. But the whole program was set up by Barbara Honegger. All right, that's Barbara Honegger. And she is actually having a birthday this month. I'm going to attend her birthday party, and I want you to know that Barbara Honegger is the person who said George H.W. Bush is guilty of treason, and I'll take this opportunity right now to say George W. Bush is a treasonous little son of a bitch. All right. And both father and son need to be spending the rest of their wonderfully deserving lives inside a federal penitentiary. All right?
Right.
So it's important that everybody hears that because, as I said on the show last time, Jesse Ventura is going to be running for president, and I want everybody to be aware of this because the first thing that Jesse and I are going to do is to make sure that 9/11 is really investigated, all right? And I mean truly investigated where hundreds of people are going to go to prison, all right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going to do, and we're not going to have any more wars until the investigation is done on 9/11. I feel that strongly about it, and you'll hear on October 6th the substantiation of why we should truly investigate 9/11. All right?
Well, let me just finish snapshot, Greg, and you can get into that.
Okay.
This is what the children are saying. Please, no more war. The children are trying to teach us. My friend Ozawe Pines says, we were not born on this land. We were born with this land called Turtle Island. And I wanted to finish snapshot on this note, on this more positive note of the 4 aspects of self, because it's really important. And people, don't believe us. Do your research. And even the colors have a lot to do with the 500 different tribes that have 500 different ways of doing things. We shall remain, they say. They will always be here because they are part of the earth. A note to myself today: valuing oneself over the demands of an abuser is a vital stage in recovery. Valuing oneself over the demands of an abuser. That could be at work, that could be in the family, that could be in a relationship, it could be anywhere. I wanted people to think about that. Natural law, very, very important. So I said to myself, okay, put natural law here and put man's law here. What's the difference? Look at the words. Inherent to creation, constructs of the mind. Harmonized with, okay, because natural law is harmonized with. They live in communion with each other, if you want, or in cooperation with each other due to knowledge and understanding. Complied with due to fear of punishment. It's very, very clear the difference, and they're almost polar opposite. No, I actually would say that they are polar opposite. So you can put it on pause and look at this for more information. I thought that was very, very valuable. And to finish off, the alignment with natural law is really important. There are 2 levels of understanding about actions and their ramifications. One level is the cosmic flow, and of cosmic ramifications, and the other level has to do with natural law. If you break the laws of nature, they will break you. It's not a break even. You will lose. So don't even try. Breaking news: weed killer linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Duh. I mean, hello. Isn't this something that we knew way back, Greg? So this is my show for tonight.
And by the way, if I might take this moment to announce something, Luca,
yes,
for all our listeners, on October 6th, okay, in a few days, I am going to be doing a show with Kevin Barrett. And Kevin Barrett is one of the world's leading experts on 9/11 and what happened with 9/11. That's actually Dr. Kevin Barrett. He's an engineer. And the show is going to be 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, PST. All right? And so Kevin Barrett is decided to have me on after we had a lengthy conversation about what I'd found out years before in North Dakota. I was attending a school on booby traps, bombs, explosives, and demolitions. All right? And it's something that most people in the intelligence field do as an operative. And the one thing that I will leave you with is when I got there, the feds, all right, federal officers were there, and they were investigating somebody by the name of Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want everybody to tune in, okay, and make sure we have the Liberty Beacon tuned in, because there's going to be five other networks listening to this interview, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is truly earth-shaking stuff. So you're going to hear about Timothy McVeigh, and you're also going to hear about what happened to Flight 800 that left out of New York City
mm-hmm.
and exploded midair right over Long Island Sound. All right, so it'd be my pleasure to have all our listeners listen on that interview. We're shooting for 1 hour now, and there might be an emergency request to do 2 hours. Everything I have to say with Mr. Kevin Barrett is that important.
Good.
That is my public service address this evening, Luca, and for our listeners.
That's great.
I'm a little confused. You know, that's why I get confused, and I think I should ask this question. How many of our listeners understand the importance of Roundup, okay, in our daily lives? Well, every time you go to the grocery store and you pick up a loaf of bread or a wheat product, you are dealing with Roundup. You are putting Roundup into your mouth, into your loved ones' mouths, okay, into their systems. All right? Roundup is sprayed on wheat crops to make sure that they all ripen at the same time. Okay? Have you ever noticed how wheat fields are always brown at the same time? Well, that's not by accident. That's not by natural process. That's by a cousin of Agent Orange. And for those of you who don't know what Agent Orange is, Agent Orange was developed by Dow Chemical and sprayed on Vietnam as an anti-defoliant, okay? And you're probably thinking, oh, we don't even know where Vietnam is. Well, you should, because here's how it's going to happen very shortly. As a result of the non-GMO wheat, okay, GMO wheat, they are growing super weeds now. And your congressman, your senator has authorized the use of Agent Orange to be sprayed as a weed killer on the previously sensitive weeds that grew up in wheat fields. So that means you are getting a double dose of Roundup, which now, if you sit up and watch the red eye, you will see it causes, exactly like these lawsuit lawyers are saying, it causes and connected to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. All right, and that's a terrible thing. It's basically a good way to start dying. All right, but the companies, these agricultural companies, want to make sure you fit the actuarial tables, that you live and die when you're supposed to live and die. Okay, so and you're thinking, okay, that doesn't really bother us. Next time you pick up a loaf of bread, bite into it, you think about what it's doing to you and your family. You will get something from eating that bread that will terminate your life. And at this point, it's important to say, oh, goodness gracious. Well, if it was so bad, why was it sprayed on the Vietnamese? Well, to make money, first of all. But secondly, it was used as a defoliant to clear the jungles, wipe the jungles out, which they did. 75 to 80% of the jungles are not the jungles that they were 40 years ago. And think about that. What does it take to wipe out a plant? A plant's a whole lot tougher than any single person on this face of the earth. Well, here's what happened. All right, as of right now, there are 3 million victims. I didn't say 1,000. I didn't say 100. I said 3 million victims that are dying in Vietnam right now, as I say this, from the direct effects of Agent Orange. And of course, well, how does that bother you or affect you? That's because it should, because they're going to be spraying it on your bread, on your wheat, on your food. Only politicians could be pimped out and sell you out as dramatically as that. All right,
Greg, they don't care. They really don't care. And I have to throw this in about the herbicide monitor. People go, what? The herbicide called Monitor that McDonald's uses on their potatoes. You know why? Because they don't want that brown line going up on their russet Burbank potatoes. So they have to spray the potatoes in the field. They have to spray with something called monitor. Okay, the owner of the field doesn't even go out in his own field for 5 days after spraying because it's so deadly. And then those potatoes have to be put in some kind of a vacuum sealed place where they have to, quote, air off because they're so deadly. They're so poisonous. So it's something to think about next time you go to McDonald's. Those gorgeous fries, they're gorgeous and they're long for a reason.
Where is the FDA on this? Okay. Where is the American Cancer Society on these issues?
They don't care.
Where is the AMA on these issues? Are these called, what is it? The Devil's Triangle? All right. They all make these arrangements for these poisons to be fed to the public. And guess what, folks? You pay for it. It's a scream. All right. It's wonderful. You pay for dying slowly, albeit, but you pay for it. They will get you. They always get you because our politicians are pimping you. All right. They laugh about it. They think it's hysterical. They're pimping you. Do you think that Hillary Clinton has any great humanitarian desires to help you? Do you think that Donald Trump has any great humanitarian desires to help you? Have you seen any suggestion of reform in our medical care? And many times for the listeners of this show, many times you've heard me just say, it's real simple. If you don't pay those companies, okay, until you get better and you're healed or you're treated, how long do you think you're going to stay sick? All right? Not very long. That's all you have to do. That's the great combination, the great issue right there. Okay, do you pay your mechanic when he doesn't fix your car? Do you pay your carpenter when he doesn't work on your house? Why should you pay your doctor, okay, to make sure that you stay sick and keep coming back and giving him more money? All right, there we go. Okay, that's what they've done. That's what I want everybody to understand is that it's real simple to get good old care. The Chinese figured it out 5,000 years ago. As soon as you show up to your doctor's office and says, fix me, he better fix you. Okay? It's not a favor he's doing you. You're paying him for his skill, intelligence, and services. All right? So, and to get better and you're fixed, you don't pay him. I just cured the whole medical issue of the United States of America.
Yeah.
All right? So, hey, you want to vote for me for president? Hey, guess what else I can fix, too? Okay? All right? The doctors, no problem. Medical, no problem. World wars, no problem. Endless wars, no problem. Terrorism, piece of cake. All right? Just remember that. I want everybody to remember that. Okay? I'm not the brightest bulb in the box. I just say things that make sense. That's all what we need is things that makes sense in America. Okay? So, and this thing about Las Vegas, I think we ought to say something, Luca. Okay? What happened in Las Vegas? Do you know? Do any of our listeners know? Okay?
They're finding out real quick.
Well, I don't know how they're going to find out. It's taken 15 years to find out that something was really wrong with 9/11. Okay.
I have one question. In such heavy security places, like venues like that, Jason Aldean, right? How does somebody manage to get how many weapons up there?
10 weapons and thousands of rounds of ammo into his room.
Right.
And another thing too is, I might be wrong, but I very clearly, since I've spent most of my life in the violence business, in the healing business, and the intelligence business, all right? I listened to that whole episode, the shooting and so forth. First of all, the guy who did this, what's his name, Paddock? Okay. He doesn't know he didn't know what he was doing with an automatic weapon. That was very clear. And if he had known that when you shoot at a group of people, you have to quarter those people. You have to draw a line with 4 areas, 4 squares, and then that actually gives you the maximum killing capacity with an automatic weapon. Fortunately, he didn't know how to do that, all right? But one of the things that I do know, because I heard it very clearly, there were 2 sets of automatic weapons firing, okay? One was a German automatic weapon firing, much higher cyclic speed, and then there was Mr. Paddock's weapon. I'd probably say it was, by the sounds of it, it was an assault weapon, okay, and probably of the M16 type class, all right, with about 30 rounds per second capacity. The other weapon was much more serious and had a much higher cyclic rate. So it sounded more like a German automatic weapon.
Well, we'll be talking about
2 weapons. That means there were 2 people shooting. Okay. So, and what is this about? He had no political affiliations, no religious affiliations, and he had 18 more weapons in his home, in some romantic capital by the name of Mesquite, Nevada. Okay. Now, and the part I loved is they said because he's white, he didn't have anything with white races, any connection to white races. Okay, I think we're missing the point here. Law enforcement's missing the point here. And with the NSA monitoring virtually everything we do, hell, I can't even fart. I can't even fart without the NSA getting a recording of it in high definition, sound corrected. Okay, recordings that everybody should be able to send off to NSA and get a copy of. Okay, how did he manage without anybody detecting that to gain access to almost 30 automatic weapons with thousands of rounds of ammo?
ISIS in America. You warned us. You warned us, what, 2 or 3 shows ago?
Yes.
We're going to have to talk about that on the next show because we're out of time.
Are we out of time again? Boy, we're going to have to talk to Roger about that.
Yeah, I think it's great because it just makes us have a drum roll for the next show, But, Greg, thank you again, as usual, for your wisdom and your experience and your time.
Well, it's always fun dealing with you and talking with you, Luca. But, hey, I want to make sure our listeners understand us, get the point, and think about what we're doing, and help us research and give us some input. I want to get some input, the feedback from everyone, in our chat room or whatever. We ought to get an 800 number, to talk to these folks. But that's how I get feedback. That's called intelligence, all right? Feedback. So absolutely, we need this. We need this, okay? And we're going to need it more in the months to come. We're going to need more feedback from our listeners.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
You bet, Luca. Thank you so much.
Okay, good night.